In 1991, the Falkland Islands Government decided to create a day to honour former UK Prime Minister Baroness Margaret Thatcher for her role at the time of the 1982 Falklands Conflict. The 10th of January each year commemorates the day Baroness Margaret Thatcher first visited the islands in 1983. To many residents here in the Falklands, Baroness Thatcher's first visit to the islands was more than a momentous occasion.
She was like a shot of adrenaline through the entire population, and she did a whirlwind 4-day tour, and wherever she saw people lined up poshly, she broke them up and said, "Look, I'm the Prime Minister, what are you doing here? What do you think of it all?" And she got on so well with everyone.
She was very much a politician, and I think she was very aware of the fact that she wanted to sort of talk to everybody and such like, so that was very good. On her second visit, it was very different in some ways because she wasn't Prime Minister by that time. But the first visit, she was going around and doing the handshaking and trying to speak to as many people as possible, which was ideal.
So we all went over the road, we watched it being driven past. Quite incredible, but something I didn't believe. This was January 83, just a few months after the war, and the first time and only time a serving Prime Minister has been here. So, quite incredible it was, yeah.
It was a tremendously significant time. I mean, I was only 10 years old, so for me it seemed impossible, firstly, to be meeting someone like her who had featured so massively in the past, few months of my life. And so I remember it as a very exciting time, and I was fortunate enough to meet her a couple of times and got her autograph twice, which was kind of the highlight for me, I think. But yeah, very exciting.
It wasn't officially announced. Word came through, I think, from Stanley Airport somewhere, and there was an announcement over the local radio, and we all congregated up on Davies Street. I remember Terry and I going up there, and everybody was standing around, feeling a little bit foolish because we're all standing around waiting for something to happen, and then suddenly the car came into sight, and she got out and was talking to people, and it was absolutely amazing.
It was important that she came down here, important for the Falkland Islanders, and I think she wanted to see the place which had been a big part of her life for 70 odd days.
She was very, very personal, sharp as a razor. You couldn't push your luck. You realised that underneath, she had this sort of a very astute mind. I suppose, that's why she was Prime Minister.
I remember being incredibly friendly and very warm. The other thing I remember about her was she seemed very, she was larger than life in my mind. And actually, of course, she was quite a little lady. But yeah, very charismatic, very lovely, warm personality that sort of came across to us here. I think, at that point, this community and Margaret Thatcher had a very special bond, in those sort of, within that first year of the end of the war. So it was, it was quite extraordinary.
When she spoke to you, you were the only person she was talking to. You were treated very much as an individual, and she listened to what you said.
On the 10th of January 2015, a statue of the late Baroness Margaret Thatcher was unveiled in Stanley as a tribute to the former UK Prime Minister. The bust was officially unveiled by Baroness Thatcher's son, Sir Mark Thatcher, who was honoured to have travelled from the UK to pay homage to his family name in the Falklands.
I rather like that. It is indeed, and it's the first time I've seen a department photo. And I particularly note and like the fact that the sculptor has included the Union Jack on my mother's lapel. I think that's entirely fitting.
To many residents here in the Falklands, Baroness Thatcher is considered a hero. A hero for her steely and steadfast approach across the 1982 conflict and for recapturing the islands for Britain.
Had it not been for the bravery and determination of your mother in standing up to the naked aggression when Argentina invaded, we would not be the country we are now.
The bust itself sits neatly next to Thatcher Drive and adjacent to the 1982 Liberation Monument. The 8-foot-high statue stands on a stone plinth bearing a brass plaque with a quotation from a speech Baroness Thatcher made in the House of Commons on the 3rd of April 1982. It reads, "They are few in number, but they have the right to live in peace, to choose their own way of life and determine their own allegiance." Words that most certainly still ring true.
She played such a huge part in all our lives and in securing the future and the islands that we have now. It's hard to imagine a different scenario, how things might have gone if it had been somebody else in that position. She certainly had the courage of her convictions and took a huge risk, a massive gamble in sending the task force to liberate the islands. So, I think we do need to recognise that.
She saved our bacon, so we'll never forget her, and thank God she was in power at that time. So that is important to perpetuate the memory of Margaret Thatcher.
Well, I think she got us out of one almighty hole and gave us back our country. Simple as that, really.